Okay, so this recording is for 29 March. Gonna be talking about take number two for 29 March. First one, technical difficulties. But we're gonna talk about React a little bit more. But before I kind of dive into specifics of what I'm working on, what I've been learning, in case anyone's dialing in that has not played with it or heard of it or know exactly what it does, it is a single page application. So traditionally what a website is going to do, it's going to be like here's a little button right here. It says uh contact. So let's circle it. So a person says, well, I'm going to click contact. Well, it says, hey, server, can you give me that contact page? That'd be great. And the server says, okie dokie, here's a package, have it back. And it's like, well, now I want to go home. And it's like, okie dokie, here's a package. And then it gives it back. And so not only are we just completely re-rendering everything over and over, we're even just not even we're not even utilizing the stuff that's similar between all of them. Like for example, why when we hit home or about or contact, why are we deleting this? This is just extra information that you're throwing at them when they've already received it. It's completely it it I don't know, I can't think of the word, but it's just outside of the necessary. So Facebook came up with the single page application that really exploded to be able to say, what if I just give you everything? Just talk to me if you really need me. And so what that really means is that everything's built out of components, and we just have to rip it off if we don't want it, like the user does this, and then we slap it on with some glue if they do want it. So everything is these little individual blocks. Like when if we're at a home, okay, so we're at a contact us screen right now, but we want to click uh, the oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're at a contact screen. If we want to click home, all we have to do really is just rip off this contact us and then put on the new home. Wow, this is a gigantic pen. So it's trying to save on speed because it's not having to ask the server, and it's trying to save on cost because it's not having to ask the server. So it's a win-win unless you're working on like, some ancient freaking um, whatever it's called, browser. So now to walk over like kind of what the page looks like. It's this real, real plain right now. Don't judge me. I am really trying to learn this. So, like for example, we have all blogs. Each blog is its own component that's rendered on screen. If we hit home, here we are. We hit new blog, it just says add a new blog. It's so boring, and I've done so much work. But like they even have all these fun extra things. Let's find out. Oh, here it is. Components. So you can see that there is an app component that's rendering everything. I have a browser router, which is now working. It's like wrapping everything so you can actually like redirect an URL or like make the user kind of think they're redirecting, which is also part of a router. I'm very confused by this, both of them. Then we have new stuff that I must have added at some point. I don't really know what that does. It must be part of the router. We have the nav bar. We have the link, routes. Like these are all different parts inside of like our file. I'll even show that off for like 2 seconds. Yeah, so this tiny little thing is like 150 megabytes of just insane amount of like files, and then there's just infinite when you start looking in the node modules. But to kind of explain it in, I don't have that much time, but I'll try to explain it real fast like this, since if I need to show what's actually happening. um, I'm gonna pause while getting to my start. Okay, so we have. like blogs that in the orange, you can see that like there's state and there's props, and you're kind of passing it back and forth between the two so that you can reutilize it however and whenever you want. And it's pretty cool because it'll actually start like holding your database and stuff separately. Okay, and then I learned about use effect, which is a built-in hook, is what React's calling it, where it comes with two parameters, and I try to simplify it to what you want to do, and then like how often. So really, any time that like a changes happens to something that you put a watch on, it will re-render or do an action. For example, use effect, and we're doing an anonymous JavaScript function of just console logging. Uh, and then the second parameter is just this open array, which really means that like literally every single time something changes on screen, it's gonna console log that. But we can start making that more conditional. So you can see here with the use effect that's right here, you can console log the name anytime that there's anything that changes with the name. Mhm. Then we start setting up fake JSON servers, and then we use that fake JSON server to do this. Obviously, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So step 0 is that we're setting a null state to the blogs. Step 1 is that we're using the use effect only once during the initial DOM render. Step 2, we're going to fetch the API from the fake database. Step 3, we're going to translate the response into JSON. Step 4, you do a dot then, which is like an asynchronous thing, to fill the blogs, because remember originally it's set to null, so that use state null at the very top turns into actual blogs. And then there's a step 5 somewhere, and then step 6 is actually really cool. So it's conditionally rendering on page. There was like blogs and that. So it's like if blogs is true, because remember blogs was null until it's promise or until it returns its promise. Does blogs and then the other part will always have something there. So it's always truthy. So as long as blogs is happening, that component will be rendered. Conditional loading message is not super interesting, but we can start making changes to error messages and even start just how we would in Java, like start pulling things out and almost using like generics, which is a thing in Java, but I don't think it is in JavaScript because like everything's generics. But you can reutilize the code in future circumstances without having to only do it for blogs. So you could just like be like, tell me if there's an error. Then we do custom hooks. And one thing I do want to actually notice is really interesting that there's so much changes happening so fast to React that I was following level or not level 5, a version 5 example, but I had version 6 installed. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, cool, I get to learn routing, and like nothing's working. It's because like the changes are happening so fast that this switch is deprecated, and then the way of routing is now deprecated, and the new way is really clean, but it's like, oh gosh, like what is happening? But so yeah, that's what I'm working on. Just more, but I don't think anyone wants to see anymore.